Hello and welcome once again to Mind Mastery Accelerator, your destination for becoming a fearless entrepreneur. I am your host, attorney Sean Arnold, and I am here as I am every week with your other host, Master Executive Performance Coach, Vernon Webb. How you doing this evening, Vernon?
Doing very well, Sean. Absolutely wonderful.
That's wonderful, Vernon. Tonight I intend to show you, myself, and the universe I ain't scared. I ain't scared of nothing. We're going to talk about fear tonight. We're going to talk about where it comes from. We're going to talk about what it does to us, how it comes up for us, and we are going to talk about what to do about it when it seems to be taking over our lives. So, I am a trainer's trainer in neurolinguistic programming, as you know, and NLP thinks about fear as a pattern. It's a strategy. It's a way that we think. And the problem with that strategy of fear is that it becomes so habitual that it can turn into a prison. Fear is literally an outdated neurological pattern that is running your life. And we're going to deal with that tonight. Fear acts like PTSD. You literally keep reacting to shadows of past events and past memories and fear of future events and future memories that may never come to pass. And yet you're not anchored to reality. So you're not really seeing things as they are. So we're going to examine our fear tonight so that we can create a portal for emotional healing. The reason why we do this is because when you ask yourself powerful questions, you get powerful answers. For example, ask yourself, what is your fear actually trying to teach you? That's a very powerful question. When you meditate on that question, you can get at some very deep rooted traumas that you can then resolve. What pictures are you creating? What pictures are you projecting into the universe when you think of that fearful state? Remember, what you put out into the universe is going to come right back at you. So, what are you creating in your own mind that you then start to act out in your environment? What vibration are you sending out into the universe? What goes around comes around. Vernon, what would Silva say to us about eradicating fear? Why should we bother? Aren't our limits just our limits? Don't they
No,
just keep us safe?
no. Fear in its proper place is important to have. You want to be afraid of uh, getting hit by a car by not looking where you're going, and you certainly want to be fearful of being hurt by animals. But fear is a negative expectation. It's got several different uh, definitions. Fear is, as an acronym, false evidence appearing real. And when you fear something, you're expecting something bad to happen. That's your expectation. And your mind is geared to give you what you ask for. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, it doesn't know the difference. It only knows what you tell it. And when you tell it, I am afraid of something, then it begins to create those kinds of situations to give you what you've asked for. And you want to be careful about what you say. Self-talk, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, is going to determine exactly how you handle it. Son?
Absolutely. So, from an NLP perspective, fear Being an expectation of a negative result, it's not a thing. It's just a process. It's a strategy. And we have talked about strategies at length. We talk about how we create them, and we talk about ways that we can change these learned patterns. Remember, your fear as a strategy, it's a sequence of thoughts and a sequence of sensations that result from those thoughts, and it all happens inside your body. It's literally created internally. Fear does not occur out there. Fear occurs in here. So your thoughts and your sensations are actually creating an internal representation inside of your mind. You're creating a picture of that fearful result, that fearful outcome. And these internal representations do not support your journey. They create a fear sensation inside you instead. So, Vernon, what does Silva mind control method, and how does it actually define fear?
Well, fear being a negative expectation, which means that when you're expecting something, when you're fearful of something, you're expecting something bad to happen. And what we really want to be mindful of is how we use that when we begin to work with our self-image. Because if we have a fearful self-image, we're going to think we don't deserve, I'm afraid, and I can't do that. And your mind, your subconscious mind, when you say something over and over and over again, it accepts it as being true. It's much like having a thread and you have one here, and if you want to break it, no problem. But when you put several threads together and you have a rope, it's much tougher to break. So be mindful of your self-talk. That's what you say to you about you that no one even hears. It's got to be positive.
Absolutely. And the important the important thing, the connection to make about that is that fear is actually distorting your perception. It's clouding your intuition. And in this way, fear prevents you from reaching the solutions that are located in the deeper levels of your mind. Fear actually anchors you to emotional paralysis rather than an experience of freedom. Fear is just it's a misalignment of your intention and your subconscious programming. Fear stems from the misperception of danger or lack. I will paraphrase Mark Twain when he says some of the worst things that ever happened to me in my life actually never happened to me in my life. So fear then, how does it arrive? It arises from sensory triggers that you have. They come from something that you see, something that you feel, or something that you hear. That trigger then activates a memory which may or may not be a true or correct memory. It might be a faulty memory. It might be a distorted memory. The reason for that is because so many of these fears actually reside, they come from our childhood. So the memory produces a feeling, and then you repeat it and it becomes habitual, and you take it into adulthood. That childhood fear is actually a conditioned response. My undergrad degree is actually in psychology from UCLA, and we studied Pavlov. And Pavlov, many of you will know, had some dogs that he was training, and completely aside from what he was doing with the dogs, he fed them every evening. And in order to make things easy for himself and the dogs, he would ring a bell when he was ready to feed the dogs. And one day, he did not have the food for the dogs, but he rang the bell and the dogs started salivating and acting as though the food were right there in front of them. That's how he made the connection that we can have a response to a stimulus, which is not an original stimulus. It's called a conditioned response. So we can have traumas in our childhood that can become a conditioned response that we then carry into adulthood, and we get triggered in the same way that the dogs were. I hate to compare us to dogs. We get triggered in the same way that the dogs were triggered by Pavlov's bell. So, if, for example, you grew up in an environment where you were told to speak when you were spoken to, you may carry forward into your adult life a feeling that you can't speak out of turn or you can't say the wrong thing, because if you do, all of a sudden you're in trouble. So, that can create a fear in you of speaking publicly, privately. Let me tell you about Elaine. Elaine is an executive in a company. She works remotely and she makes good money. So she's got a great life. But Elaine has a problem, and that is whenever she needs to speak publicly, she freezes up. She gets on to her Zoom meetings with her team, and she is expected to make a presentation, and she begins to stammer because she gets herself into a state of fear. Her heart starts pounding. She breaks out into a sweat. She starts to truly suffer. And this has actually cost her. It has cost her promotions and it has cost her raises in her company. So eventually, Elaine got tired of the bull donkey and she learned a little bit of NLP and she learned a little bit of Silva method of dynamic meditation. And she took herself through a few processes that I'll share with you and that Vernon will share with you that really helped her with her public speaking and her presentation skills. So the first thing she did was take herself into an alpha state, and she used the swish pattern on herself. We talked about swish pattern in an earlier episode. She created a large picture of that existing state of anxiety, the fear that she experiences when she has to publicly speak. And then in a small picture, she created an idyllic sensation for herself, a great presentation for herself, a wonderful experience with public speaking. And then she swished, and then she swished, and then she swished. Go back and look at that episode and I'll and show you how to do the swish pattern on yourself. Elaine did this on herself and she began to dissociate from that picture of anxiety. Elaine next did the theater of the mind technique on herself. Again, she went down to the alpha level, seeing herself sitting in a theater watching the movie of anxiety on the screen. And then she changed that movie. Elaine went up into the projector booth where she could see herself watching the movie and she could see the movie on the screen. And she's got all kinds of tools in that projection booth. And she just started manipulating that movie. She turned it into a black and white movie. She slowed it down to a crawl. She made all kinds of changes to the submodalities in that movie, which was her internal representation of the state of anxiety, until it started to loosen and she started to dissociate from that fear, from that anxiety. And then finally, she actually employed an anchoring technique. We went through anchoring at length in an earlier episode. Go back and listen. Watch that anchoring episode and learn how to anchor. This is what Elaine did. And she anchored the strong emotion of feeling powerful and feeling fearless and seeing herself presenting in a powerful manner. And she anchored that to her pinky and her thumb. So now she has a resource that she can depend on when she gets into that Zoom session and she no longer stammers to her colleagues. Vernon, how would Silva method of dynamic meditation help Elaine with her problem of fear?
Well, first, Sean, we've talked about it, you've mentioned it. It's about learning how to achieve a relaxed level of mind. Being able to achieve that relaxed level of mind takes you to the point where you can actually begin to reprogram your subconscious mind because the subconscious mind is driving the bus here. If you're not sure about why you do what you do, take a look at what comes up, and your subconscious mind will be at the base of it. I guarantee you. But it's interesting. Silva Silva used something that's we used three techniques. All right, because there was something that was there that NLP took care of, but there was still something a little deeper. And we all have that sometimes. So what she did is she relaxed her mind. She went, she developed the habit of being able to go to level. That's what we refer to it. Going to a level in her mind where she is relaxed, because being in a relaxed level of mind awakens the information that's in you, your imagination. She made it a habit. I can't overemphasize that, so I'm gonna say it again. She made it a habit to spend 15 to 20 minutes by herself and giving herself love. Everything we do and we talk about is going to be predicated on how you feel about you. And if you have not learned to be your best friend, then you'll always find a reason not to do it. First one is, well, I don't have time. I'm tired. I'm busy. That's your subconscious mind keeping you in your comfort zone. And that means you will not be changing at any time soon. So understand that when you can't do or what you want to do, it's your old mass negative programming keeping you in place. Alpha level conditioning begins to help Elaine accept what she wanted as truth. She knew what she wanted. She created that end situation. Then she used the mental screen. Now, we've talked about the mental screen in prior episodes. The mental screen is not on your eyelids just because you closed your eyes. Your mental screen is out away from your body. I would say 30 degrees above the horizontal plane of sight and approximately 6 feet out. That's where your mental screen is. That's where you project your mental pictures. So she began to use the mental screen and projected what it was that she wanted. Then she rescripted it and she saw herself getting a few smiles from her colleagues and that things were looking good. The fear began to really dissolve from her mind. That was the second technique. Third technique, mirror the mind. That has got to be one of the most powerful techniques in the Silva process because in the mirror of the mind, you have an opportunity to see yourself as you are right now. And then when you finish seeing yourself as you are, smash that mirror, blow it up. I don't care what you do, but the message to your subconscious mind is that the problem no longer exists. Now, the subconscious mind doesn't like a vacuum. So if you don't put something in its place, it'll just figure, well, you want more of what you just got rid of. That's not the case. It's like washing your clothes in dirty water. So she immediately created a picture of a white framed mirror, and she saw herself there. Three things. What did it look like? What did it sound like? And what did it feel like? So it looked like she was happy. Her colleagues were smiling. She felt good about herself. What did it sound like? She heard her colleagues say, wow, good presentation, Elaine, go girl. And then, of course, what did it feel like? Well, when you give an outstanding presentation and everybody's giving you on the back, how are you going to feel? But great. And that's what she began to see as her way of identifying with her ability to speak. Mirror the mind. Here's the shift.
Vernon, you being a master executive performance coach and a superb public speaker, surely you've never dealt with fear. Have you?
All right, all right. When I first started speaking, I'd never been a speaker before, and I was with the Silva organization. My mentor, Bert Goldman, he would let me come out and read. I didn't say anything else. I wasn't there yet. But he said, "We'll now have Vernon Webb come out and read the exercise to you," because he liked my voice. So I would read the exercise, and then when I finished, turn around, walk away. I did that several times. Then Bert said, "Okay, you're ready to answer questions." So at the end, ask them if they have any questions. I'm like, whoa. All right. I read the exercise. Everybody was happy. I said, "Now, are there any questions?" As a speaker, you always want to have one or two questions in the back of your mind because people are kind of shy when it comes to raising their hand and wanting to admit that they don't know something. Mistake, but that's okay. So, yes, I began to feel more comfortable as a speaker, and I got so good at it until I was offered the opportunity to give the keynote at the Silva Mind Control convention. Usually it was for people who had big names in the speaker world. So I was the first trainer they ever invited to give the keynote address. And I was very, very proud. That gave me a sense of I have arrived. I'm good at what I do. And I enjoy being able to say that because most people say, "You sound like you bragging." It is what it is. They say I'm good. I've got people that say I'm good. So you know what? If I have any questions about whether I'm good, I'm in the minority because the people who have heard me speak all say, "You're a good speaker. You're very dynamic and we got a lot of good information." So every time I see myself thinking about speaking, that's what I see myself doing, feeling very, very proud of what I've developed as a speaker. But I had to create a picture of using Mirror the Mind. This is where I am, a little nervous, not too sure. I remember one time I stood up there and did a presentation to a small group of people. I stood up there and I talked and I talked and I talked. I thought I would shared the secrets of the universe. I looked down at my watch, 5 minutes had gone by. I'm like, "Oh, yeah." So now I've got more to say than you've got time to listen to. That was the shift.
That is fantastic. So, listeners, I want you to take away from our conversation the fact that we have neurolinguistic programming, neurostrategic techniques to help you. We have the Silva method of dynamic meditation techniques to help you overcome fear. But nothing will help you overcome fear quite like doing the work, quite like facing your fear head on and doing it anyway. So, Vernon told us an acronym for fear a little bit earlier, and that was false evidence appearing real. I'd like to give you a new and different acronym for fear in hopes that it might support you. The F in fear stands for fortify yourself. When you increase your skill set, you increase your confidence. My motto is maximize your competence to get the confidence you need to succeed. And I will stand by that every day of my life. The E in fear stands for expect miracles in your life. When you have an expectation of success in your life, the laws of the universe will bend in your direction. The A in fear stands for appreciate. Appreciate who, what, and where you are in your life right now. Don't just look for the future, just look for the change, but appreciate who, what, and where you are. And just understand that wherever you are in your life right now, there is somebody who will create mayhem to get exactly there. So appreciate who, what, and where you are. And finally, the R stands for return to source energy. Fear cannot exist where source energy exists. Creative source energy, some people call it God, is all about love and creativity, joy, abundance, exhilaration, and expansion. And when you are in this state of mind, you cannot live in fear. Vernon, I think we need to task our people this evening.
Let me share some closing points to put a finer point on that. First of all, it's all about the mind. You are where you are in your life based on what you believe to be true. It doesn't have to be accurate, but it's the fact that you believe it to be true and you will act like that. When you were young, you have beliefs now that you didn't install. Someone else gave them to you, and you've been acting as though that's the truth. Now, when you say, I want to speak, and you're like, well, I can't speak because my mama used to tell me, you don't need speak when you're spoken to. Nobody ever asked me to speak. That's how you look at it. So, what changes do you want to really, really incorporate? The one thing I really want to share with you is you want to be sure that you are giving yourself love. Every day when you open your eyes, your feet hit the floor, say something positive about you. You are grateful for what you have and you see yourself being successful. Make sure that you are listening to what you are saying, your self-talk to you about you. Anytime you have something negative that comes up, it's got to be cancel, cancel, replace the negative with something positive and keep it moving. That's what I would share with you. The task, develop the habit, no matter how you have to do it, of going to level twice a day, minimally once a day. But if you're really successful, you're going twice a day. That's just how it works. But create that time for you because you deserve it. Let us know exactly what it is that you're most interested in making some changes in, and we will be sure that we can cover that in future podcasts. But in the meantime, know that we love you and we want to see you do the very best that you can be. And because it's all in the mind.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Mind Mastery Accelerator. You ain't scared. I ain't scared. He ain't scared. Ain't nobody around here scared of nothing. We want you to come back and see us again next week. Give us a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will see you next week on Mind Mastery Accelerator.
Share it with someone you love. See you
Bye
next week.
bye.
Bye bye.